What up guys, now that we have seen what the full game has to offer, all the way from level 1 to 100, I now feel confident to make an informed Diablo IV review. Hope you enjoy. If you have played the previous Diablo game, for instance Diablo 3, then you will notice that the game pace is much slower. Diablo 4 still is a pure hack and slash game, however way less so than Diablo 3 was. Expect every action to be much more impactful and decisive, a dodge in the wrong direction might get you killed, and this time around there are very few shit death mechanics to give you a second chance. There are some very tanky builds however, that seem to be able to face tank tremendous amounts of damage without breaking much of a sweat. All of these builds belonging to the warrior and druid classes, which are by far the tankiest classes in the game. My concern here is that, other than these tank builds, melee just isn't an option when it comes to high level nightmare dungeons, as any monster hit will one-shot you immediately, regardless of how many defensives you have active. So the only two options we currently have when it comes to very endgame content are either playing a tank build or playing ranged, which is quite a big problem since not everyone likes the ranged playstyle. And about building tank, having most of your abilities dictated by mandatory defensive options just doesn't match the advertised build freedom. At the end of the day, you can have an amazing talent tree system, which we do have, but if any build that does not follow the two patterns that I previously mentioned is bound to simply get content locked at a low nightmare dungeon level, unable to progress, then this is a major concern, and is probably the main critique I have heard about the current state of the game. With that said, it doesn't have to be a problem, since not everyone cares about reaching the highest levels of nightmare dungeons, which, if you have played Diablo 3, are the equivalent of greater rifts. When it comes to the campaign, it is what you would expect, straightforward quests that do get quite repetitive at times, but it still is a fun journey with good NPC voiceovers and amazing cinematics. All 5 classes are incredibly unique and offer a lot of build variations, however, as we all know, there will always be a meta, so even though you can make a unique build that perfectly matches your playstyle, there will likely be another build for the same class that is magnitudes of damage above that amazing build you just theory crafted and created. Diablo 4 has by far the best gameplay graphics in the genre, with amazing ability visual effects that truly show that this is a 2023 game. My biggest fear, however, is that from all the gameplay I have seen, there is no build that comes even close to how satisfying most Diablo 3 builds were. The closest we have is the Whirlwind Barbarian, which is very similar, but still not quite the same. I really enjoyed to return every season and make a crazy build where so many items and ability interactions would synergize together and culminate in an amazing stress-free gameplay experience. Diablo 3 really was the game I would play when having a bad day, where you just don't want to feel locked behind any game system. It was the true embodiment of freedom, a feeling that I have never felt in any other game before, at least not to this extent. And now I fear that Diablo 4 is feeling much more clunky, with abilities that, even though get the job done, don't really get you excited to press that key. For example, have you ever played the D3 Demon Hunter multi-shot build? What about the God build? Or even the Meteor Wizard, the previously mentioned Whirlwind Barbarian as well, and of course any of the Ina Monk variations. Once your build was complete, you truly felt like a Super Saiyan. It didn't matter if you were not clearing level 150 greater rifts, you felt like a god in Sanctuary. I could just run rifts all day, not even progressing towards anything, and it still was one of the best gaming experiences I have ever played in any game ever. I do hope that with Season 1 we will see more of this, and to argue with people who will say that this is a way to prevent ridiculously high numbers, well, then you should check the recent Nightmare 100 clears and see that those same numbers, even without any seasonal buffs or whatever extra modifiers we will get, are already in the billions. So yeah, the number excuse ship has already sailed. Another feature I expected to see in Diablo IV was the auto loot and auto dismantle option for pretty much everything, with the ability to customize and filter specific items. But it seems that even though they implemented something very close to it in the last Diablo 3 season, they did not bring it to Diablo 4, at least not as a complete system. I definitely hope to see it in the future, as stopping to pick up stuff never made any sense in Diablo. It directly contradicts what the hack and slash gameplay is all about. Another concern I have is that the base game is just too easy. The world tier goes up to 4, and even that feels like you are playing on easy mode, especially if you are a ranged character, in which case you will most likely go through the entire campaign without struggling at all, not even on boss fights. I expect World Tier 5 to come out soon, maybe even higher tiers. There are many choices when it comes to how you improve your character, which is a very big positive, but it seems that they all become subpar once you start progressing through your Nightmare dungeon levels. We were promised that PvP was going to be a main feature within the game, with continuous support and a viable focus of gameplay. Well, so far there is no indication of that whatsoever. The only thing we have are the red PvP areas, where you can flag yourself for combat and farm monsters within the zone, while killing enemy players at the same time and stealing all of their gathered PvP resource. What will happen with this is that these areas will be dominated by groups who will go around ganking all the solo players in the area, making it impossible for a regular player to get anything, literally anything from PvP. If this is the PvP that they advertised, then it is an absolute joke. A system that rewards groups that feed on the casual solo player trying to experience the game. It seems that they have learned nothing from the disgrace that PvP was in Diablo 3. I am very disappointed in this regard, and I hope that we will see a proper PvP system in the near future, especially arenas and battlegrounds. If the excuse turns out to be the same as in Diablo 3, where it supposedly was impossible to balance due to the absurd scaling of damage, well, then maybe in these 10 years you would not design a game to have that very same problem, which they actually said was not going to be the case when they talked about armor and how they were going to use the new way it scales to avoid ridiculous numbers. Well, meanwhile, we are seeing billions on screen already, so I guess that those were just broken promises as usual. I truly love Diablo games, and I hope that they don't mess this one up. Don't get discouraged by all my critics. I don't mean to trash talk the game at all, it is just that I chose to focus this video around what is problematic, instead of showing you all the rainbows you have already seen in other reviews. I want this game to succeed, and that is why I addressed all the main issues here today. Make no mistake, however, Diablo 4 is by far the best game release we have seen in years within this genre, and I highly encourage you to play it. It does have its problems, but so does every other game. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't yet, and as always, I will see you in Sanctuary.